Okay. Is it starting? Hello. This is Milton Reigelman. I used to teach English. Is this still going, do you think? Okay. Recording, yes. Okay. This morning or this afternoon, whenever you're watching this, if someone is watching it, in a way, this is like sending novels or music up in a spaceship into another planet or into the solar system or another system. And we don't know if anybody's going to get this rocket or not, but this is ambiguous. Ambiguous comes from the word ambiguity. Amba means around, and we're not sure about things, and we're not sure about whether or not anybody will listen to this. But if you are children, this is going to be a little mini lecture on the difference between prose and poetry. Prose. Prose is what all of us speak. When you say something, you say it with words, and those words are in something called sentences, and that's a complete thought. Something does something. The boy jumps. The dog barks. Or something feels something. I feel happy. Poetry is very different. Poetry is a lot more complex. It's a lot more rhythmic. It sounds better. It's easier to remember poems than it is prose. And we're going to today look at one poem. It's probably the best known poem in American poetry by Robert Frost. He wrote it in about 1915, I think, and it's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. We'll also look at one sentence of prose, and that's the first sentence of F. Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, that was published in 1925. So we're going to go from 1915, a little short poem, to one sentence that opens a 1925 novel, one of the best novels in American literature, The Great Gatsby. Gatsby, not Godspeed, The Great Gatsby. Now I'm going to put on the screen, I'm going to stop recording and put on the screen a copy that I want you to look at. Stop recording. Continue. Okay.
Go to your share your screen now.
Share screen.
And now click on that.
Click on that. Aha.
You're still recording.
Okay, children. This will take me too long. What you have here is a little bit of prose and a little bit of poetry. And I'm going to convince you that poetry is more interesting than prose. You speak prose. All of you, when you open your mouth, you speak prose, as does the narrator of this American novel. And he begins like this, and you can read along with me. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Now, what I've done is I've underlined syllables that we tend to accent. We don't say in my younger and more vulnerable year. No, we say in my younger. Words with two syllables or more have a certain way of accenting. We don't say Toyota, we say Toyota. That middle syllable is emphasized. Toyota. If we said, how's your new Toyota? People would look at us like we're nuts. Not in my younger, no, in my younger, in more vulnerable, not vulnerable, my vulnerable years. Vulnerable is it's a little bit iffy. Not my father, my father. Everyone say father, and I'll say father. Gave me some advice that I've been not turning, but turning. You see, you emphasize the turning. over in my mind, not ever since, turning in my mind. Ever since doesn't make sense. No, ever since. Okay. Those are accented syllables. And you could memorize that, but it would be a little bit difficult because there's not rhythm, there's not rhyme, there's not meter. We'll talk about all those things. Now, I want you to read with me aloud the first stanza. A stanza is a few lines that hang together of frosts stopping by woods on a snowy evening. And then we'll talk about it. We ready? Now, say it with me aloud. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Now, if you were really observant, you realize that I purposely left out one word here. I didn't leave it out, but I hid it so to see if you were paying attention. In that third line I have here, will not see me stopping here. But this he should actually be over here. Let's see if I can move it. I don't think I can, but let's just see. I don't think I'll be able to. Aha, I could. I don't know if that worked for you, but now I've got it in the right place. However, I need to move that up like that. Okay, no, it didn't work. It's okay. Let me try it this way. He will not see me. Now, the first thing to say is rhythm. The difference, one difference between prose and poetry is poetry has a definite rhythm. It's like a song. And in this song, it's composed of words or that little sections. They're technically called feet that are called an iamb. It's called an iamb. An iamb is 2 syllables that go like this. The da. It doesn't go da da. It goes the da. The da. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village. No, not the village. That wouldn't be an iamb. It wouldn't be a da. In the ville. Okay. So let's all say that again together. Are we ready? Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Now, not only are all 4 lines of this stanza the same in length, that is, they're all about 8 syllables. I think all of these are 8 syllables. This is absolutely regular iambic poetry. Iambic poetry is made up of iambs, that is, the da. And so you can say this stanza like this. The da, the da, the da, the day, the da, the da, the da, the bay, the da, the da, the da, the moo, the da, the da, the da, no, the da, the da, the da, the bay. Now, what I've done is I've suggested how this collection of different words hangs together, not only by rhythm, the da, as opposed to da, that's dumb. The da, but it hangs together through sound. And at the end of each line of poetry, there is a word that rhymes with other words. In fact, the first, second, and fourth line of this stanza rhyme. And so I've made them all magically green. I have a little paintbrush and I can just touch it and they turn green. There it is. Know, though, snow. Rhyme makes it easier to remember because you've got a sound. The sound is the same. Now let's look at the structure of the poem as a whole. Some words are yellow. Aha. 4 words are yellow. The word at the end of the 3rd line in the 1st stanza is picked up by the 1st, 2nd, and 4th line of the 2nd stanza. Here rhymes with queer, near, and year. Let's read together the 2nd stanza. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Queer, near, and year. And so this stanza kind of hangs together through the rhyme of the ear rhyme of the 1st, 2nd, and 4th line. Is it connected to the 1st stanza? Aha! Aha, look, there's yellow there, right there. And thus, that 2nd stanza is kind of predicted, the sound is predicted by the 3rd line in the 1st stanza. Here, queer, near, year. But how about this next stanza? That's just random? Did that just kind of accidentally show up? No, it's predictive. It's predicted by lake, the rhyme in the 2nd stanza. Lake becomes shake, mistake, flake. Let's read the 3rd stanza. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. And sweep, of course, predicts deep, keep, sleep, sleep. And in the last stanza, you've got all 4 lines rhyming. And that's because there's not another stanza, and so you don't need the same pattern. We might call this technically A, B, A. The B then predicts the structure, the sound structure of the 2nd stanza. B, B, C, B. Lake predicts the structure of the sound structure of the 3rd stanza. Let's read together the 3rd and 4th stanza. He, that is the little horse, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So the question I would ask you, children, is where does he have to go? Why doesn't he stop and enjoy the woods? After all, he says they are lovely, dark, and deep. Anything that's lovely, dark, and deep is pretty enticing. Wouldn't you want to learn more about it? Wouldn't you want to wander into those woods? As long as you told your parents, of course. They're lovely, dark, and deep. But the horse is sort of anxious. The horse knows something's not right. This is a guy, this is a speaker who hasn't often stopped at places that are lovely, dark, and deep. No, he's got to rush back, not to the town that's filled up with unlovely, undark, and undeep things, people yapping away, meetings, reports to do, things to buy in the town. Very different from this other world. And so this is a poem partly about 2 worlds, isn't it? One is the town where he suspects the owner of the woods lives. He thinks he knows his house. His house is in the village, he thinks. But he's there, he glimpses the woods. Does he go into the woods as you might on some wonderful summer day once you can get out of the house? No, he doesn't. He looks at the woods, he considers. And the horse, who's an agent of the town, the horse gives his harness bell a shake. And the horse, if horse could talk, he'd say, nay, nay, Is there some mistake? Why are you stopping here? We got to get on. We got to get back to the town or someplace. And the speaker of the poem gives in. His impulse to go and explore the lovely, dark, and deep woods is stopped in its tracks, just like the horse. The horse is stopped in its tracks. That's a metaphor. We'll talk about that later. Not today, but later. It's a metaphor. He's stopped in his tracks, and he has this quick thought of, gosh, I'd like to watch the woods fill up with snow. One reason they're large, one reason that they're lovely, dark, and deep is that they're being transformed to a regular old woods, maybe the woods in back of your house, to a special magical place because it's filling up with snow. The snow is covering the trees, it's covering the stuff on the ground, and it's changing the whole landscape into something different and magical, something that pulls him in just as snow pulls you in, particularly snow in the woods. It's transformed, it's magical. And yet, why doesn't he go into the woods? He has promises to keep. Promises he's made to other people. Maybe they want his money, maybe they want his signature, maybe they want him to do something. And he's got miles to, he can't even go to sleep until he goes these miles and meets these other people. And so it becomes a poem, does it not, about two kinds of worlds. The regular world that we live in, that adults live in at least, that is filled with promises and jobs and duties and things to do, many of them dull and boring and repetitive, but you have to do it. You're a responsible adult. In this other world that he glimpses the lovely, dark, and deep woods, but he doesn't go in them. His horse is a secret agent of this other world, of the town. And the horse communicates by giving his harness bell a shake, as if to say, look, Buster, don't be sidetracked into this other world that is much more attractive and much more inviting to you. No, get back to town or get back to these promises, because when you sleep, you also maybe go into this other world, perhaps in your dreams. In fact, you often dream of things you have just experienced. So perhaps when he finally gets all this stuff done, when he meets all his promises, he will then again be able to glimpse and maybe even go into, in his dreams, this different world, this attractive world that you're allowed in special times. Once you tell your parents, don't wander off alone into the woods. Tell your parents and wait till it snows. It's probably not going to snow, this summer, but maybe in the winter you wander off the same world that sometimes you glimpse in your dreams. The problem is in your dreams you can't remember. You don't remember dreams very well, okay? And dreams are sort of a mishmash. They're not well organized like a poem. They don't have rhyme, they don't have meter. They're not written in iambs or in the iambic meter. But a poem you can remember, and it's easy to remember. His woodsies are, I think I know, his house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. No, this is the assignment for next time, students. If you want a next time, you let your parents know, and we'll know, and there will be a next time then. It's as if someone on another planet has just signaled, by the way, we got this message that you sent out into space. And so we're interested in keeping up the communication. So you let your parents know and we'll figure out that someone got the message. And for the next time, I want you to memorize, practice the first stanza of this poem. It's available on the internet. It's the most famous poem in American literature. Whose woods these are, stopping by woods. Memorize it so you can close your eyes and say it. It's easy because it rhymes and because it has meter. I also then want you to yourself write a similar poem with the same kind of meter, not the same exact rhymes, but the end of the first, second, and fourth line I want to rhyme. That will make it easier for you to memorize it and for me to read it and memorize it. At some point, if we Zoom, I'll have you read your poem, your stanza aloud. Well, I hope this hasn't been too boring. Students, let's see, let's go back and see if I can be on the screen myself. Stop sharing. Let's do that. Here we go. Okay. By the way, I'm assisted by Igor, my able assistant, my unpaid able assistant, Ken Keffer, who actually has something up on painting. Ken is as famous in Boyle County as Van Gogh or Rembrandt or Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo is in the wider world. And in time, the wider world will discover the amazing Ken Keffer. Now, it's not Ken Kefir, but that would be an idiom. Da, Kefir. No, it's Keffer. That's technically called a trochee, but we won't go into that. We'll maybe get into that in the next lesson. So stay safe, wash your hands, and may I hope that you someday will discover a place that is lovely, dark, and deep, and is as attractive and memorable and interesting as is this poem. Finally, I hope you will practice this week speaking in rhyme, speaking in poetry, instead of just saying, "Hey, Mom, can I do this?" You would say something like, "Hey, Mom, you remind me of a palm." Good day, students. End.